Hi boys and girls, Mrs. Scannell here. In this week's lesson we're going to talk about how to read music. The music staff. Music is written on a staff that has 5 lines and 4 spaces. These are both counted from the bottom to the top. Notes are either written on a line or in a space. The notes below are written on line 3 and space 1. Line notes or space notes. Are these notes written on a line or in a space? Which line or space number? On this one here, we can see that it is written in the 2nd space. On this next one, we see that it's counting from bottom to top. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is written on the 4th line. This next note is written in a space. It is written in the 1st space. This note here is written in the 1, 2, 3, 3rd space. This note here is written on the 2nd line. When you think about notes having been written on a line or space, you need to remember that when we say write a note or on the line, we literally mean right on top of the line. As opposed to when you write your name, you write it really above the line. If we're talking about music, you write that note right on top of the line with the line going right through it. If the note is written on a space, that means the space between 2 lines. When we name notes, we read music using the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We are learning to read notes in the treble clef. We can use the sentence, "Every good boy does fine," to remember the names of notes on a line. The word face is used to remember notes in a space. Both are read from the bottom of the staff to the top. So I start at the bottom, every good boy does fine for notes on a line. And if the notes are in a space, I use the word face, F-A-C-E, starting at the bottom and going to the top. To figure out a note name, I always like to follow 4 simple steps. First, I decide is the note on a line or in a space. Second, I decide which line or space number counted from the bottom to the top. Step 3 is figuring out the letter name using every good boy does fine for notes on a line or face for notes in a space. Finally, I write the letter name underneath the note. See if you can figure out these note names. The first one is on a line. It's starting at the bottom. I would use every good boy does fine. Every good boy starts with B, so I'd write a B underneath this note. This next note is in a space. It is the 2nd space, so I use the 2nd letter of the word face, F-A, to figure out this one. This is an A. This next note is on the 4th line, 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'd use the every good boy does fine for notes on a line. Every good boy does. Does starts with D. This is a D. You can try to figure out the rest of these notes and pause the video and see if you can do it. When you're ready to move on, unpause the video. On this slide here, you can check your work to see if you were able to figure out the right notes. You'll notice that I have a low E and a high E. There's a line E and there's also a space E. We use this little symbol like an apostrophe to show that the note is an octave higher. Okay, same thing with F. There's a low F, that's the bottom space note, and there's a high F, that's the top line note. We again use that little apostrophe to show that it's a high F instead of a low F. On this page, we can practice drawing notes. When we draw notes, we can use quarter notes. Quarter notes have a note head and a stem. If you've been joining me in the live lessons, you'll have practiced drawing lots of notes with note heads and stems, and you can draw each of these notes on the staff. If we look here to draw an E, I would think, is E a line note or a space note? This one looks like a regular E, so it is a line note. For every is the first line of every good boy does fine, so I would draw a note right here on the first line. F can be a line note or a space note also. Face is a space note F, that's the lower F, so I would draw an F in the first space. Pause the video and see if you can figure out where the rest of these notes would go. When you are ready, you can move on to the next, or unpause your video and move on to the next slide. Check your work. You may notice that there's a pattern, E, F, G, and then the alphabet starts over, A, B, C, D, E, F, and I bet That next note that's in the space above the line would be a G. When you figure out notes on your own, you just need to follow the 4 simple steps. 1 is the note on a line or in a space. 2, which line or space number counted from the bottom to the top. 3, figure out the letter names using every good boy does fine for notes on a line, or face for notes in a space. Finally, write the letter name underneath the note. You can figure out these notes and check yourself. This one, it's on the second line, so we'd use every good boy does fine. Every good starts with G. This is a G. See if you can quiz yourself on these next notes. Here's a note in the 3rd space. It's a C. Here's a note on the 5th line. It's a high F. Here's a note on the 3rd line. Every good boy does fine for notes on a line. It's a B. Here's a note in the 2nd space. We use face for notes in a space. That's right, it's an A. This note is on the 2nd line. Every good boy does fine for notes on a line. It's a G. I hope this video was helpful in helping you learn how to figure out the names of notes that are in the treble clef on lines and spaces. Remember, we always use the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, and G to label the notes. They do follow a pattern. You can remember notes on a line using the phrase every good boy does fine, and notes in a space using the word face. You always count notes from bottom to top. Good luck on the rest of this week's assignment.